A recall is never something you want to hear about from a car company, and especially not a new company like Tesla with so many people avidly investing in the stock and watching it continue to grow. This is because a recall typically means that there's an issue with a car that is serious enough that is potentially putting customers at risk, and in turn, the company has to eat a bunch of cost repairing those cars, taking back the cars, buying them back, or exchanging them for new ones. On top of this, it looks bad in the press and causes some frustration for customers who just bought your new product. The official definition of a vehicle recall from the NHTSA says, quote, "A recall is issued when a manufacturer or NHTSA determines that a vehicle, equipment, car seat, or tire creates an unreasonable safety risk or fails to meet minimum safety standards. Manufacturers are required to fix the problem by repairing it, replacing it, offering a refund, or in rare cases, repurchasing the vehicle." So even though the word recall often makes us think that an entire fleet of vehicles is bad and must be replaced entirely, that's just not what it means. Tesla's track record with recalls is actually pretty good, with a history of very few recalls themselves, and each of those recalls being a small amount of cars. But part of that is thanks to the fact that Tesla is such a new company relatively, with less than 2 million cars on the road at this point. We expect this number to grow exponentially in the next few years, but for right now, their total cars on the road is still less than certain legacy automakers make in 1 year. For example, Ford sells anywhere from 2 to 6 million cars per year, depending on the year, so logically a recall would tend to be much higher just based on the sheer volume of cars sold, leading to the fact that a recent recall of 600,000 cars in September didn't really draw much attention. That recall, issued on September 30th, recalled 620,246 vehicles built at U.S. assembly plants between October and November of 2019, as well as some in 2020. They were all 2020 model cars that have an issue with a malfunctioning rear view camera, leaving a blank or distorted image. Now, this is a small issue that likely results in a simple repair and hadn't caused any injuries or accidents, but it still is a large number of cars that are affected. In fact, if we search any major brand and add the word recall, we can see hundreds of articles about recalls, like this recent GM recall of 7 million vehicles for airbags. They're incredibly commonplace, but only seem to be newsworthy when it's a newer, smaller company, or it requires a vehicle buyback like VW had to do with their Dieselgate. We'll talk all about Tesla's history with recalls in a minute and how it compares to other automakers, but first we're going to talk about some recent Tesla recalls issued today for the Model X and Model Y. Tesla has just recalled over 9,500 Model X's and Model Ys due to two separate issues, the first being a faulty roof trim and the second being a loose steering wheel bolt. For the Model X, Tesla is recalling 9,136 cars produced between September 17th of 2015 and July 31st of 2016, according to the NHTSA. And the estimated percentage of these 9,136 Model X's to actually have the defect is 10%. So really, they expect about 900 people to actually need a repair, but they need to be sure and check all of these cars. The official description of the defect on the official recall report says, quote, "The Model X is equipped with a cosmetic applique at the front of the roof just behind the windshield, known as the front applique, as well as an applique at the center of the roof in between the upper Falcon door roof glass, known as the spine applique. Both appliques are adhered to the vehicle using urethane. If the applique to urethane interface lacks primer, then, over time, the adhesion may weaken, causing the applique to separate from the vehicle." I have zero idea if I'm saying that word right, and I cannot believe how many times applique was in that sentence. For the safety risk, it says, quote, "While we are not aware of any accidents or injuries resulting from this condition, if the applique separates from the vehicle while in drive, it could create a road hazard for following motorists and increase their risk of injury in a crash." So if you're a Model X owner who took delivery during this time period, some ways to note if this issue is in the process of happening is that, quote, "There will be a detectable noise inside the cabin for either a short or prolonged period of time. Separately, the customer may observe the applique coming loose." Very specific there, NHTSA, thank you. Knowing my experience with the Model Y, I have plenty of rattles pop up from time to time, so I can imagine this will be incredibly hard to spot for Model X owners, but if you fall into that time period, you should be receiving a letter soon, and it should be as easy as taking it in for a free service appointment. The official listed remedy is for Tesla to test it, add primer, and that's basically it. So it's a recall, and I imagine that if this piece falls off while driving, that's a serious issue. But it's definitely not as serious as most fear it would be when they see that 9,000 Model X's are being recalled. Now, Tesla's newest car, and arguably their most popular car, the Model Y, has been selling like crazy and will soon be coming out of 4 separate factories around the world. Their current Fremont factory, their recently constructed Shanghai factory, and their currently under construction factories in Berlin and Texas. Well, Tesla has just issued a recall for the Tesla Model Y, recalling 437 vehicles for potential bolt issues, and they haven't yet specified what percentage of these 437 cars they expect to actually be affected by the issue. The official description of the defect from the NHTSA says, quote, "The bolts connecting the front upper control arm and steering knuckle may not have been torqued to specification. If not properly secured, the upper control arm can unseat from the steering knuckle, resulting in excessive negative or positive camber and adverse impact to steering." The time period of this particular recall is recent, affecting cars from August 28th of 2020 to November 6th of 2020. Apparently, these recalled cars are, quote, "Model Y vehicles built during a 2-month period in which manufacturing records cannot confirm that the front upper control arm was properly fastened to the steering knuckle." We've seen 2 separate photos pop up of a loose or missing bolt on the Model Y in forums, but this is an unrelated issue and only appears to have happened to a couple customers. For the safety risk of this official recall, the document says, quote, "While we are not aware of any accidents or injuries resulting from this condition, an improperly secured steering knuckle could cause excessive wheel camber and affect the driver's ability to control the vehicle, increasing the risk of crash." So it appears that this issue would make the steering itself react improperly to your input, and it, quote, "increases the risk of crash." It makes a lot of sense as a recall, and I'm glad to see both that no accidents have occurred, and that even though it is a very small issue, it is being remedied to fix any potential future safety issues. So if you're a Model Y owner who took delivery during this period, from August 28th to November 6th of 2020, the NHTSA says, quote, "Customers with affected VINs may experience excessive noise from the front suspension and a change in steering performance or feel." Again, a pretty tough thing to diagnose or really know, but hopefully it's easy enough to spot. And hopefully we'll hear more about specific VINs soon. Tesla stores and service centers have been notified, and letters are gonna be sent to each owner that has been affected. The remedy from Tesla is pretty simple. Quote, "Vehicles will be inspected for proper torque of the fastener at the upper control arm, and if necessary, service will adjust the fastener to internal specifications." Or translation, they'll tighten the bolt. It's very interesting and somewhat reassuring to actually read the chronology of how Tesla discovered this issue. According to the official report, on November 1st, the quality team learned of 2 separate issues and 2 repairs, which took place on September 21st and October 16th. They both had this same steering knuckle bolt issue, so they reviewed the repairs, investigated it, and a 3rd repair with the same issue came in on October 18th. On November 10th, it was reviewed by executives and determined that a safety-related defect existed, which led to them proceeding with the recall. For me, reading this process gives me some confidence in Tesla and the way they operate to fix issues. The fact that 3 cars had the same issue, they investigated it, and had a recall issued in under 2 months is pretty great. On top of this, because they acted so quickly, they were able to fix this issue on the assembly line rather quickly, limiting the extent of the cars included in this recall, saying, quote, "Various changes were promptly made to the assembly line installation process to mitigate reoccurrence, torque angle limits were refined, and secondary inspections and audits were implemented." What's interesting is that this is actually the 2nd Model Y recall since the car was released. There was a recall of 2,567 Model Ys just last month. But this brings up the funny thing about our perspective of a vehicle recall. It seems so serious, but for this recall, Tesla fixed it with a software update. The issue was with Model Ys produced from August 10th to September 22nd and involved the Model Y not properly illuminating trailer brake lights. The fix? Tesla version 2020.36.12, which was released over the air and correctly mapped the rear lamp to the trailer control module. According to the NHTSA, there were owner notification letters sent for this issue, so I'd love to hear from you in the comments below if you got a notification of the recall, which was fixed by a software update install. So again, the history of recalls for Tesla has been relatively good compared to other manufacturers. They had an airbag recall in 2017 and again in 2018 due to faulty Takata airbags, and those affected 17,856 Model S's made from 2012 to 2013. They recalled some 2012 to 2016 Model S's with a specific steering rack that would end up being corroded with bolts, causing a power steering issue. In 2017, Tesla issued a recall for 4,582 Model X's because of a faulty second row seat latch, as well as a recall of 31,472 Model S's and X's for an internal gear issue that caused a faulty parking brake. There have been a few others here and there that I'm sure I'm missing, but most recently Tesla voluntarily recalled nearly 50,000 Model S's and X's in China for faulty suspension and recalled some Model S's and X's that were having touchscreen blackout issues. These recalls, along with Model Y issues, have led Consumer Reports to give poor ratings to all of Tesla's lineup aside from the Model 3, which only had one tiny recall. The Model 3's one and only recall is because the sun visor was missing the required airbag warning sticker, which reportedly increased the risk of injury. My guess is that most owners got the notification that they needed to bring it in for this fix and went, "I'll be fine." I did a bunch of research to verify that because it almost seems too good to be true that there wouldn't have been any recalls for the Model 3. So if there's one you know about, comment below and let me know, and I'll be sure to keep updated on that because it seems too good to be true, but if it's true, that's really great for Tesla. So I mentioned earlier that Tesla's history of recalls is pretty good compared to other manufacturers, and it's true. While these numbers may have changed in the last 2 years, in 2018, Tesla's recall number per 1,000 cars was 941. This may seem like a lot because that's around 94% of their cars getting recalled. Insane, right? Well, keep in mind that this number kind of signifies one recall, and this recall can be as small as a brake light issue that we mentioned earlier that Tesla was able to fix with a software update. The only companies with better recall numbers than Tesla were Volvo and Porsche. Mitsubishi came in dead last with 3,934 recalls per 1,000 vehicles, meaning that each car they sell has an average of 3.9 recalls. So we see Tesla up near the top at number 3, Mercedes just behind them with 942 issues per 1,000 cars, and manufacturers increasing in the recalls as we go down. Notably, some of the biggest names in the industry, like Honda and Toyota, have a very large number of recalls on average. Again, this is 2018 data, so it doesn't have these most recent recalls that we're talking about today of the Model X and Model Y, so it will be interesting to see this data update in the future. On top of this, it's important to note that we're comparing Tesla, a company with under 2 million vehicles sold, to companies who have been producing millions of cars per year for decades. I think it's possible that Tesla will end up a little further down this list as they produce more and more cars exponentially in the next few years, and produce entirely new models in the future, like the Cybertruck and their future $25,000 car, but hopefully they can stay near the top, and really hopefully nearly every company can improve their quality and parts sourcing so that recalls are just not necessary. Obviously, it's better for the safety of everyone on the road if safety-based recalls do not even have to occur. There have been a number of issues with the Model Y, of which I have been fairly vocal because I want owners to know what to expect when buying, and there are some Tesla quirks to definitely prepare for when buying one, but none of them have been safety related, and I always find the Model Y to be well worth the trade-off. These 2 recalls for the Model X and Y seem to be fairly simple and preemptive, avoiding a safety issue that could have occurred. And hopefully that'll be it. If the Model Y ends up anything like the Model 3, which is very likely since they are very similar, we shouldn't be expecting many more recalls from Tesla on it. Even with scattered single reports of roofs flying off and various other problems, the overall satisfaction among Tesla customers is very high and will hopefully continue to be so. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe to this channel for a lot more videos about Tesla and the Model Y. Make sure to like this video if you appreciated it. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanShawTech. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.